Yeah, happy days. Yeah, welcome to your Growing Rugby League podcast. Just sharing different stories within rugby league world and others within Srama Rugby League that doing their bit. They've got a great story out there. Today we got big Sam Johnstone on, who's from Mackay. He's got a great story with coming through the ranks and Villefranche in Elite Two. Um, He's come through your South Sydney Rabbitohs pathways into NRL squad. Some time away, gone back home to Mackay, back to Mackay Cutters, Queensland Cup, then local league, and then opportunity into France. So he's got a great story, and just himself. Look, I use him as a great role model and example to players out there. Definitely keen to hear his story and your background, mate. So, how are you today? Or tonight? Our end, your day, your end.
Yeah, good mate. Good. It's a pleasure to be on. Just I'll say for myself that I'm really grateful that you've helped me for this opportunity that I've had to come over to France. It's not something that was ever sort of really on my radar, and I know without your help and getting me here, that like I wouldn't have got to experience the experience that I've had. So I'm really grateful for that, and that's why I'm more than happy to jump on and help you grow the game because I know it's something that you're really passionate about. So it's a pleasure to be on, and yeah, I'm keen to share my story and hopefully inspire some of the other young Srama Rugby League recruits and go from there.
Yeah, no, you're a legend, mate. And like I said, I use yourself as a perfect example with your career previously, even though you're still young and you still got a big career ahead of you. But what you've done previously, gone through adversity, and then also now, growing rugby league over in France, and just work with a few other players as well. There's similar backgrounds to yourself, but just heading over to France is sort of to freshen up as well, just with life experiences and with the game. So you've done everything, well on and off the field with the club's, point of view and following your progress there over. And then obviously now you got the big grand final on Sunday. So definitely, keen to see you in action. Before, we'll go through your life story, and also your life in France at the moment and the different experiences. But were you born in Mackay?
Yeah, mate. I was born and bred in Mackay. Grew up there my whole life. Went to Mackay State High School, which is a bit of a in Mackay, it's sort of the state school for rugby league. They have a nice rugby league academy there. I've had some pretty great players go through there, like Jelly Cherry Evans, Ben Barber, Callum Ponga was there for a couple of years. So it's been a great little program, and I can definitely say without the help of Mackay State High, I wouldn't have got to the level that I was fortunate enough to get to in Australia and over here in France. I was born in Mackay. Played juniors for brothers there in Mackay, and then moved across to South Sharks Mackay just before I moved to Sydney. I was fortunate enough under 15s. I made Queensland White, and then moving forward, I signed with the Raiders when I was 16, just on like a scholarship deal. So I was with the Raiders for 2 years while I was sort of the last 2 years of school. And then in grade 12, I was lucky enough to make the under 18 Schoolboys side as well. From there, went down to Wollongong, still being signed with the Raiders, and I was lucky enough to put on a pretty good showing at the national championships there down in Wollongong in 2015, that would have been, and got some offers from a fair few clubs after sort of that carnival. Ultimately, I decided to sign with the Rabbitohs. It was pretty close between them and the Roosters, which is funny because of their rivalry, and for a guy all the way to still sort of be in the midst of that was something I probably didn't realise at the time. But Michael Maguire, he sort of definitely played a big role in he's in me going to the Rabbitohs at the time. He was still the coach when I signed there, and partly the other reason was I did also support Rabbitohs growing up, so that might have swung me a little bit, and they were really good with my mum and dad. So, being a young fella, I was, 17, straight out of school. It was really important that, I got the support I needed down there. And I can't thank the Rabbitohs enough for the support they gave me for the 3.5, 4 years I was there. So, I went down there straight from school. Didn't get to go to schoolies. I was straight into pre-season because I was already late. The pre-season already started. Got there. I was training partly with the under-20s and partly with the SG Balls because I was still only 17 when we're playing SG Ball. So went through there. We had a really good team in the under-18s. Like Cam Murray was our captain. Kim Matangi was playing. Emre Gula, Campbell Graham. So we're lucky enough we had a really good side, but got knocked out in the semi-finals that year, which was a bit unfortunate. Then after that, I was sort of training with 20s, but being an 18-year-old front row at the time, it's hard to crack a couple of years older. So I was training with 20s and played for a local team called Coogee Wombats, under 19s.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to them. We actually went on and won a premiership that year as well for the under-19 Coogee Wombats, which was, that's the last grand final I've won so far. So hoping to tick another one off this week. So yeah, definitely an experience. I got to experience the Sydney locals and run around with them. It was really, really cool at the time. Then moving on to, that was 2016. Moving on to 2017, we got Ryan Carr as our coach. He's a great young coach. I think he's at Parramatta at the moment, but he had a big impact on my career. Started coming off the bench when I was a 19-year-old playing 20s. In 2017, I was coming off the bench and I started playing some good footy. And then I got an opportunity to start. And then from there, my footy was getting better and better. I was getting fitter, started playing 80 minutes, in the middle there. And halfway through the year, I was lucky enough. I didn't make the original Maroons team, but I got a call from Justin Hodges and I believe, can't remember who it was, but someone went down or was going up to play first grade. So I got to come in to the Maroons team, and I was 18th man that year. That was 2017. So that was a really cool experience, getting around the boys and learning. Like I've done Schoolboys Queensland, but not like the Maroons. It was a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like it was really, you did everything like the top squad. So that was really cool to see. Then I went back, from that experience, learned from that experience as 18th man and continued out the year and had a really good year with the Rabbitohs. Ended up re-signing for 3 more years after that year with the Rabbitohs. And then the first year was sort of like a part-time contract where I was part-time first grade, and then I'd work part-time as well and play New South Wales Cup. So I played New South Wales Cup.
What were you doing for work?
So I was the Rabbitohs. They were really good. They set it up, and I did a plumbing apprenticeship while I was down there. So those first 2 years, while I was in 20s, I was also doing a plumbing apprenticeship, and then that third year while I was there, I was part time, and I had a really good boss. He sort of let me. I'd have to train with first grade day. He'd let me go train first grade, and then, if I had to travel or whatever. So he was really good, and I learned a lot, being a tradie and working around Sydney and the Sydney suburbs. So that was really good. And then 2019, I was playing the whole year, playing New South Wales Cup. I was playing decent footy. I was in and out of the starting side. There was a couple of good front rows out at the time. Reece Kennedy, who he's over in England at the moment. He's at the Broncos and South. Obviously, in the first grade, we had, Tavita Tola and all that in front of me. So I was sort of biding my time down in New South Wales Cup. And then I was lucky enough to be selected that year the Maroons team again, under 20s Maroons team, and got to play this year, which we had pretty stacked side. We were the first Queensland Maroons team to ever win it under 20s like Maroons. New South Wales had won the previous 6 or 7. So that was a massive moment, probably so far the highlight of my career was winning that one, especially with looking at some of the boys in that team. You know, you got Paddy Carrigan, Tom Flegler, Harry Grant, all of them are playing in the top Maroon team now. So that was definitely one of the highlights of my career. And then from there, unfortunately, a couple of weeks after that game, I done my shoulder. You know, all part of rugby league. Started rehabbing it, and then it was around that time. I don't think it was because of injuries, but I just started to probably have doubts if I wanted to keep putting my body and like my mind through rugby league. Like I was pretty isolated down in Sydney, being from Mackay. Didn't have any family. Left when I was 17, and you could almost say I was a little bit homesick. And I just I kept training out. It all sort of happened when Anthony Seibold and Wayne Bennett sort of did the exchange with the Broncos and the Rabbitohs. For those that remember that, I was there during all that, and it was all a little bit messy, and didn't really know where I stood, and I probably started to lose myself a little bit, and you know, probably where I needed a bit of a role model to step in and help. I maybe didn't have that because, you know, I was a little bit isolated and lived by myself and stuff like that. So from there, after Christmas, you know, Wayne Bennett, anyone that's been around him or been coached by him, he tells it how it is. And he was really big on, you know, living above the line or below the line. Like, you got to be above the line if you want to be in first grade, like 100% in. And I just think that where I was in my life and career and what I wanted to do, I decided that I didn't want to waste anybody's time, especially my own time. So I made a decision to go in, and I sat down and spoke to him and just told him where I was at. And he was really good. He had probably the best reaction, and he was, you know, really respected me to come in and do that, especially at the time. Like, I was still had 2 years left on my first grade contract because I was going up to the top 30. I still had 2 years left there, and at the time there was some big articles coming out around some expectations and stuff, but they really respected me and for making that decision and moving back home. So then I made the decision to move back to Mackay, back home where my mates were, my support base was, and the plan, of course, wasn't to play rugby league that year, but Steve Shepherd at the Cutters, he was blowing up my phone a little bit, heard that I was back in town, and everyone knows Pup. So I ended up going back to the Cutters, playing a season there, which I really enjoyed, just being around, like playing for the hometown Cutters. You know, growing up in Mackay, I probably thought that was the pinnacle at the time, like before I ended up going down south. So playing for the Cutters, you know, a bit of a dream come true, just because I'm a hometown boy, playing there, and played a year there, and then sort of COVID hit, and Cutters was still trying to get me to play, but I just decided that I'd play some local footy, and then I captained the South Sharks last year, and that was really good. I learned a lot about myself, being, you know, 24 and captain an A grade side. I got to learn a lot about myself and my leadership qualities, and I ended up running into a post that you put up about a club over in France, of all places, looking for some front rowers, and just sort of said to the missus, you feel like moving, and we just sort of went from there, and now I'm over here. So it's been a wild journey, but it's been a journey that not many can say that they've been on. And it's been unique, and definitely has shaped me and made me who I am today. And I definitely thank the game of rugby league and the adversity and everything I've been through. But that's my story. So I'm lucky enough to be in a grand final.
You've mentioned a lot of things there. Like I said, you're a great role model for others. Look, one, you know, you reached out to your coach and the club there when you weren't feeling quite right. So I communicate that to a lot of the players. There's a lot of times you just need to communicate with the coaches. The coaches want that. To players to seek feedback. And then also, when you were younger too, regarding your mentality. So I communicate that all the time. Your strongest muscle and your worst enemy is your mind. So if you can train your mind well, you can do anything. But as soon as you have doubts or your confidence isn't there, you can really eat away at you, and especially being young as well. But with that adversity, with the injuries, with being away from home, and you've been able to experience all of that with your young age, where a lot of people don't get to experience it. You've had the highs of going right through, making the rep teams, NRL interests, NRL signs. That Queensland sides, pretty much that whole team have kicked on to to NRL. So yeah, it's just about keeping positive and keep chipping away. And the big one, life off the field, which you were doing now. No one else around your age, or I'd say so, from that Rabbitohs that was coming through, that being able to experience what you have now is something to cherish. And then, like you're saying, with your age, being a captain for your local team and heading over there, it really molds you as a person on and off the field.
Yeah, for sure. It's been like my journey. I think the biggest thing, especially for kids coming through these days, is a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, you should have stayed. You would have played NRL." Like all this other stuff. But the biggest thing for me is there's so much more to life than footy. I know footy is a major part of who you are, who I am, and who a lot of people are. But the biggest thing is you need to put yourself first, and your mental health and family and stuff. Like rugby league shouldn't be first, shouldn't be the number one. And lots of people don't understand that. They're like, oh, it's the best job in the world. You've got to train every day. But they also don't understand what an NRL preseason feels like, So you have all those people, but the biggest thing is I don't regret my decision for leaving. I'm happy within myself. My family were super supportive. Always, my mum and dad were the first to say, come home, like when I wasn't feeling right. So, and they were the ones that probably gave up the most out of anyone to get me to where I was. So, to have that support and sort of that made it even easier for me to come home. And yeah, I'm still to this day don't regret my decision, because I didn't like where I was going and what the path I was going down. So, and I've got to experience a whole different side of rugby league that I never would have experienced if I'd stayed, and gone the NRL route. So I'm really thankful for that. And yeah.
Yeah, well, you're still very, very young. I mean, as front rows, you don't really mature until your late 20s. Anyway, there. And what you're saying about with when you're playing front row, playing the big minutes, the 80 minutes there, you communicate that to a lot of the front rows or any players out there. If you do want to try and stand out and progress, especially as a forward, try and really work on your fitness to get the minutes out. Especially this day and age in rugby league, how everything's changing as well. So, like I said, you're a perfect example and pin up to everything what I communicate and say to everyone. Exactly what you just said about there's more to life as well. I repeat myself to everyone. Your work and family comes first. And especially if your mental health and that as well. So end of the day, you've got to do what makes you happy, and you're a testament to what you've done. But like I said, you're still very young, and years ahead of you on and off the field. So you're in your Villefranche at the moment. They've been a club of mine since I've been recruiting for them since 2014, like when we first communicated. They've been really, great to myself. We've got players there every single season. Bernard Gregorius, when he went over, they progressed and, won the comp. And when I first started speaking to yourself, they did have a lean year last year, and you there now, and obviously Corey there as well. Just put the icing on the cake with the squad you've got there. So you're pretty much exactly where everyone expected and what I envisioned, and you only got one more game to go. So how are you feeling for it? How's the prep been?
Yeah, but it's been the club have been really good. Like they allowed my missus to come over with me, and which was really big. We come here a little bit late, and they've been really welcoming. Like there's not much English getting around in the Villefranche, but everyone tries, and they still make you feel welcome, even if you can't quite grasp and pick up what's going on. But in terms of the team, yeah, we had a really hot start. Then we sort of had a little bit of a lull period there just after Christmas, as you would expect after we started really well. And then coming into the finals, we started to hit our straps again. And we had a really good finals win last couple of weeks ago. Last week, to get us into the grand final after we finished second and got that first week off of finals, which was good. Our prep, it's been really good. We got 3 more sessions left before the grand final, and the grand final is definitely going to be a cracker. With the team we're playing, XIII, they finished first, so we finished second. They finished first, and they've got us both times we've played them this year. So we're really going to have to be at our best. But something that does sort of swing our way is both times we've played them, we haven't had our full strength side. I didn't play for one of the games. Mackay, our good front row, didn't play. So we've definitely improved a lot since we last played them. You say the club with their recruitment, there's myself and Corey over here, internationals, but they've also recruited really well within France as well. So I think, like you said, they had a bit of a lean year last year, but they went out and spent a bit of money to make sure this year was better. And like you said, just making the grand final, I think, was massive for the town. Like they celebrated afterwards like we'd won the grand final. So making it is a major tick, but as Kobe Bryant said, job's not finished. We've got one to get. And it'd be pretty cool to come over here and win my first grand final since I was 18. So it's been seven years now. So that'd be something pretty special. And to say you've won a grand final in a different country would be pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to a big game.
Yeah. I'll just swing back to you during your time in Sydney. How did you find the city life? Obviously I spent 5 years up in Mackay, and during that time I felt myself as a bit of a country boy. Like I was originally, from Brisbane. I was a city boy, but when I'm spending the 5 years there, I really immersed myself in the town, and I love my time up there and still speak to everyone. And then I ended up moving down to Sydney not long after I left Mackay, and it's a different kettle of fish there. So you've gone from country town to big Sydney, and then back to sort of smaller than Mackay, Villefranche. So how was the Sydney life? Had you cope down there and whatnot?
Yeah, definitely. So, I grew up in Mackay my whole life, which we know it's not a tiny town, but it's not definitely no city. But yeah, I went straight to Sydney when I was 17. So that probably before I was 18 was like that probably 6 months between I finished school and turned 18 was probably the hardest. Couldn't really go out or anything like that. But I was pretty good in terms of the traffic and the people, and because I'm someone that I've always liked change and liked stuff to do. Like I was always out going to the beach or going shopping, or when I want to turn 18, I love to play a little bit of poker and stuff like that. So in terms of the change, which a lot of people might have struggled with, I think I dealt with it pretty well, because I
Yep.
always told my dad I sort of wanted to get out of Mackay to a bit bigger city, just because it's just the way I've always been. I did grow up on not a huge, like on a couple of acres. Like we didn't have a farm or anything back home, but definitely a bit bigger than the blocks I was living down in Sydney. And probably the biggest thing when I did move to Sydney, which helped me a lot, was the Rabbitohs set me up with a family. So I was sort of like in a billet family scenario.
Yep.
So I wasn't sort of living by myself or with one of the boys. I was sort of in a family environment. And Brendan and Louise, who I was set up with, they had 2 young kids, and they really were a really family figure for me down there. So I was lucky in that respect, where I had a family that they'd cook me dinners on most nights and stuff like that. So I was really lucky in that respect, because I think it would have been a lot harder if I was trying to live down there.
Yeah, big time.
Live in a unit or something by myself and do that sort of stuff. But yeah, the Rabbitohs were good. And then for the second part, when I was down there, I was living with a different family. So I got really lucky. I got 2 really good families that, as a young fella, you probably need. But I think the system now, how they've got, where you play under 20s in your hometown if you can, and then you go away, I think that works a lot better. Doesn't put the pressure on the young 17, 18-year-olds that, and I experienced that, thought you had to be it all and all that before you even made it, sort of thing. So I think by staying home, kids can sort of mature, grow up, be around their friends, because that was probably the biggest thing for me, is like leaving my friends, all my friends were going out partying back home, and I was stuck in Sydney, eating salmon for dinner, just because, I had to be fit, and that was your job. So the sacrifices were definitely huge, but I was lucky that I got some really good families that helped me out and helped me through some time. So that was really good. And then coming back to Mackay, and then coming over to the Villefranche, it's a bit different, but like yourself, the culture is there's not too much that worries the French. They're pretty laid back. They don't like to hurry.
Tank it, do some on. Yeah.
Yeah, and they like to eat dinner very late, which catches me off guard because I'm a big hungry dude, so I like to eat dinner pretty early. But I love to train late, eat dinner late, and they're not too busy in the mornings. So
yeah. Could you sort of explain the sort of imaginary, just what the town's like, how many people's there? I know, look, cause speaking to the other boys, look, the other Aussie boys I spoke to at Lascure, they were living in Albi, which is, look, it is sort of a bit of a city life there, but I know Villefranche is very similar to where I was in Rialmont. It is a very small town, and you do really have to immerse yourself as within the French culture. Unlike some other, the other time when I was in Toulon, that was the total opposite, where it was a huge city life, and look, it wasn't that French feel, which I didn't like personally. But can you sort of explain what Villefranche is like?
it's not as small as I envisioned when I first come over here. Like my missus, she's from Pittsworth, which is west of Toowoomba, with about 2,000 people. Yeah. So like that's in my mind a small town. There'd probably be about 10 to 12,000 people within definitely not in the town, but within the surrounding area.
Yeah.
It's just sort of the sort of town that we walk from our house where we are here, and we can walk into town. We can walk to all the supermarkets. There's one main road that stretches sort of straight through to the town centre. The town centre it's very French, it's everything you envision, the little cafes, the 3-4 stories, little alleyways where you can only walk down. It's actually a beautiful little town. It's built like in between, it's in a valley, there's hills all around, and like you said, I think the difference, because we were actually in Albi on the weekend, and the difference between like an Albi or a Toulon or a Toulouse is, you can go to a restaurant and you can order in English, which makes everything a lot easier. Yep. But in the Villefranche, like you're saying, it's a lot like more country, and it's probably a lot older population, and not too many speak English. So it has been a bit of a challenge in certain places. But what we've sort of picked, we've been doing a Duolingo, and we did some French lessons before Christmas, and now you can get enough to sort of buy. And everyone will try if some will speak a couple of words of English, but I think it's different in that respect, where you're definitely in the culture. Everyone's drinking their wine and their little cafes and croissants for breakfast. Like, it's everything you think about France. I think Villefranche or little villages like this definitely. That's what I vision compared to like those bigger cities. You might not get that full experience.
100%.
Very grateful for that opportunity to come here, but at times it has also been very challenging, like especially during the winter months. As you know, it's very cold over here, so there's not too much to do because you don't really want to get out too long. So, I've enjoyed the experience for sure.
Yep. How's your French now? I remember before you were heading over, like with all the boys that head to France, I always send you out the big list of certain things to do. Obviously with the Duolingo and some words and stuff to bring and that. But how's your French now? Have you picked up?
I'll be honest, it's not great. It's I feel like French is a very hard language to learn. I definitely was putting in the hard yards for a bit there, but I'll put my hand up and say that I did slack off a fair bit. In saying that, I understand probably the stuff that I need to get you through a supermarket checkout to order something. Like, I can understand and pick up on words. The main things as well at rugby league, like you said, that list, like balloon and placage and all the stuff that you sort of need to know, the lefts, the rights. And like when our coach David's speaking, like I can't understand him, but I can understand little things that he might There's a lot of words that are similar, like discipline and stuff like that. So you can pick out that. But in terms of sitting down and having a conversation, I've got no hope.
Bringing back memories. I remember. We'd have our video session. We'd having a video session. Look, I wouldn't have a clue what he was saying. But, you'd sort of hear something, one word you'd sort of remember, and then you'd sort of do like dot to dot to dot sort of around of sort of what he's talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
And then like on game day, during the game, it was fairly, like just for myself, it was sort of fairly easy because, you're sort of saying same words, over and over. Or, you say like, you're two to the middle, or, for a shot, or, I've got legs, or I've got control in different things. So that was fairly easy. The French language is, what I try and tell everyone that do want to come over here. It is a total different, language to learn, and it is very, very tough, but at least now you've got to experience it.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm lucky enough that if there's a good group of boys that speak pretty good English. Obviously French boys that speak good English. So anything I don't understand or need translated, you just sort of ask them afterwards, and they're all really good. So, and like you said, during the games, like being a front rower, I don't really need to know too much. I just need to know to take it up the middle and get quick cradle balls and make my tackles. So I'm lucky in that respect. I would hate to be a halfback or a fullback trying to work that around that. But in terms of the language, it is a barrier for sure, and it's something for anyone that it does want to come over here. They have to be probably prepared for it, for sure. But it's something that after a couple of weeks you can sort of start to move past, and everyone's really good. And especially a town like a little town like Villefranche, everyone's really open, and they really try to help you out where they can. So that's been really good.
Yeah. Did you get to do much? Were you?
You just cut out there. Did you ask about travel? Is that what you asked about?
With the coaching, did you get to do much of the coaching?
Oh, okay, yeah. So before Christmas, we were doing, myself and Corey, we were going down and helping the under 15s and under 17s. But again, we were limited because the kids probably speak less English than the adults. So we were just doing a bit of fun drills with them and stuff like that. We weren't so much coaching them, which was frustrating because I'm a coach back home. I've coached junior rep teams, and I've coached a few junior teams, I coached school teams. So I do really enjoy the coaching side of it as well. So it was hard not being able to immerse myself as much as I would like in that. But at the same time, it is good to see, grassroots in a different setting, especially where it's so union dominated over here. They probably do struggle in the junior rep. So it was really good to help out where we could. But it hasn't been too much since Christmas. I think they sort of slowed down and haven't done too much since after Christmas. But yeah, it was really good, the stuff we got to do for sure.
Yeah. Just with the coaching side of things, that was why I was professional over there as a player. Also, the coaching side of things and helping out. So I had to sort of learn along the way. But yeah, just the amount of talent, because I was dealing with all ages and obviously gone to away games and certain things, but just the amount of talent that was there. Maybe not the 15, 16s, but the younger ones, they were just freaks. And if they played any of the Australians, at that age, it'd be very, very strong game. But when the kids get to around that 15, 16-year-old, they have an opportunity to, say, get a scholarship or, to get a bit of money or whatever with rugby union. And that's why they lose so many, the top young talent to rugby union. And it's just, obviously, sad to see and hear regarding, with the World Cup not being staged there now. What's the feel like there at the moment? Has it been communicated much in the media or, with the town not having the World Cup there now?
Yeah, well, I haven't been. It's only just sort of got announced the last couple of days, so we haven't had a training session yet to sort of talk to the boys. But a few of them have put in our group chat that they're not too happy with it. Obviously, it would have been a massive thing for the country and for rugby league in the country to help grow the game, having the World Cup throughout France. I think that would have been really beneficial. For the, like you said, the juniors, a few of those young boys at 14, 15 that might be on the edge of, between union and league, and then they see the World Cup, and got to go watch the Aussies play, France. I think that, would have been really big for the country and for the towns that we've been in. So I think that is very disappointing. And I've read a little bit in the media that it's due to funding or whatever it is. But so, yeah, that for rugby league in France, I think it is very disappointing, and it's going to hurt the game, I think, in the long run, which is also disappointing because, like you said, there is some kids with some talent here, but they just straight away get snapped up by union because it's the dominant sport. It's a bit like, if you look at Queensland, where dominant sports rugby league, any sort of good AFL player that could play rugby league probably ends up in rugby league, with vice versa when you're in Victoria or South Australia. So, hopefully they can maybe have it in the future or they can work it out. But, in terms of what it's done to the sport, I don't think it's great for rugby league in France for the immediate future.
No. So it's been we just, myself personally, I'm that passionate about the game, and just for having Luke Lacoste there for France, he's been a great shining light and views for.
Go back.
Yep, bugger. Still recording. So it's just been a bit of a shame there, but hopefully it doesn't hurt the local competition there too much. I won't hold you up too much longer, but have you got to do much travelling while you're over there with the Misso and experience Europe?
Yeah, mate. We've that was when I'm thinking back to why I decided to reach out and contact you. It was for the chance to get to the other side of the world, and France is a really good base. So we've had the opportunity to go. We've been to obviously Paris and Nice, two probably big parts, the big cities that you think about when you think about France. Well, we got to go to Switzerland for Christmas, which was really cool to see like the Christmas markets and stuff. We got down to Spain, down to San Sebastian, which was some amazing beaches down there. And then for after the grand final, we have a massive trip planned where we'll get back down to Spain. We'll get to Barcelona. And we're taking some vans and sleeping in the vans, which is going to be cool, with the missus and her family and one of her friends. So we get to do Spain. We'll do up to the east coast of France again, do Nice, Monaco, down through Italy, get to see Rome, leading town Pisa, Amalfi Coast, Sorrento, stuff like that. And then we'll fly to Greece and do the Greek islands. So, we've got a really big trip planned post grand final. So really looking forward to that. And that was a big part of why we sort of come over here was to get the opportunity to do that from a good sort of base. And we're really looking forward to a bit of a European summer and experiencing all that before we get back home. So the travel side's really cool.
That's unreal. Like I tell everyone, it is super easy, to do whatever you want in rugby league, whether you want to travel overseas or play in France or play in England or literally anywhere. And it is a quick and easy process. I've got different tiers. I've got you on board my recruits tier, which is my higher tier there, but I also got the membership for other boys below, and it's just super easy. So if anyone interested, don't hesitate to get in touch. Just the last few things, just here, obviously, you're still very young, but you've been through a lot with life and rugby league wise. Have you got any advice out there, for players, young players coming through the ranks, and you just with your experience, what you've done?
Yeah, the biggest thing. Yeah, for sure. Like my biggest thing would just to be like not to put too much pressure on yourself. Like there's so much more to life than rugby league. If you want to be an NRL player, that's great. But if you don't want to be an NRL player, that's also great. And you've got to learn that rugby league can also be a vehicle to so much more than NRL. Like if you're living in Australia, like for example, I never would have thought that I would have ended up in France or, like you said, it's easy to end up in England. The United States are starting to pick up over there. So the opportunities to travel the world and do it where like at a bit of a lower level is massive. So I think just don't put too much pressure on yourself, and just whatever you want to do with your life, you can do, especially in rugby league. You just need people like yourself with contacts, and like you said there, like you've been a massive help with organising everything over here. I definitely wouldn't end up here without you. So on a side note, I do want to thank you for that and thank you for the opportunity that you gave me. And I think that it's really like you're trying to do with Growing Rugby League. I think it's really great, and I think it's great for our game, and definitely something that I'm happy to support. And if any of my friends, a few have already asked me how I got over here and stuff like that, and straight away I just say sort of through Srama. So it's a big credit to you, and I think it's massive for our game. So thanks for that. But yeah.
Yeah, you're a legend, mate, and I'll still keep promoting you as a great role model for players out there. And then just what you spoke a little bit earlier about, for players, when they're 20, if they can, opportunity to stay home instead of moving. I do promote that quite a lot to the boys. You don't have to move away from home. you just got to trust the process. Nothing beats playing well and consistent, and then you progress through the ranks until you get to senior football, and you'll get picked up then. Just big shout out while I got you here. Yeah, shout out to you, obviously, your South Mackay Sharks and Cutters. Two of both my old teams and member clubs of mine. So they've been a huge impact for myself, and then obviously now with the relationship with yourself, and then obviously Villefranche as well. They've been huge to myself, the brand, with everything that we've been trying to do for years now, since 2014. And obviously Dave wasn't there as the coach right at the start, but when he's come in, he's been a great help for myself and all the boys. So onwards and upwards, and bonne chance. Hopefully you get the win on the weekend, and you look forward to. Do you know whether it's going to be live streamed at all, the game?
I'm not too sure yet. I assume it will be. I think some of the boys have asked, and they have said it's maybe on YouTube or something. But I'll shoot you a message if I find out where it is, and you might be asleep, but you can watch it the next day or whatever else. So I'm assuming that it will be live for sure. So hopefully we get the win.
I'll be sharing that. Like I do always. So I'll be sharing the game. I'm pretty sure it is live stream, but if anyone's watching to see Big Sammy play, he's the big unit. You won't miss him out there. But you appreciate your time, legend, and thank you for everything. So same again, bon chance and bon journée. Catch up.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.